Right, so we got our sell-off that we were looking for yesterday. Everything is dropping nicely now in the stream. I'm going to show you where I'd like to see Bitcoin bounce and where the next big long is on BTC and a lot of these altcoins, guys. This is a banger show. Go. Obviously, remember, if you're enjoying the content, hit the like, hit the bell, hit the subscribe. 𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏 is here in his red shirt because the Russians have sent a submarine to fight. What's the story? They fighting oil.
The Americans have just taken 3 different oil tankers, 2 in the Caribbean, 1 in the North Atlantic, which is a Russian ship. The Russians sent a submarine knowing they were coming for it, thinking they weren't going to touch it, but the U.S. said, "Back you, we're taking it anyway," and they took the ship. So
there you go. Okay,
all sorts
so
of
that's not bearish though. That's kind of bearish. Okay, guys, we're going to cover this. We're going to talk to James about that stuff as well. Banter bubbles, obviously red all over the place. If we're looking at a dip, then this thing typically goes a little bit red. Mr. Mark, how are you, sir? Good to have you here. Okay, so banter bubbles nice and red. As you can see, lit has dropped into our bounce zone, and I've got a couple of scalpers here for you guys. There might be a little scalp coming on AVAX, for example. It's dropped into quite like a degen area. We got a order block here. We got a VWAP, so maybe a little bounce coming on AVAX shortly. Okay, so there could be a little long here for you guys. And PMG George says, send the Marines. I don't know, guys. It might get a bit messy. We might get a little bit redder. And then my net long account might get a little bit abused. But we're going to have to see, okay? And Constance says, Dupes is expecting 74. Can't wait to short the bounce. Look, that's probably that head and shoulders or a big rejection. I'll cover you guys on some of those levels. Okay, hold my rod. Hello, sir. Yes, it's very good to be back. Let's look at BTC. So what I've done here is I've now looked at a slightly more macro bull zone. So yesterday I covered the local bull zone where we got our bounces from. Now I've gone a little bit more macro, and the main reason behind that is things like the 4-hour and the 8-hour still looking like they could come a little bit lower. Look at this. We don't have our 4-hour reset just yet, and quite often if we get that second little reset or that second push here on the 4-hour, that can cause a little bit more pain. So what I've done just to make sure we covered here is to go a little bit more macro. So I've taken my fibs now from a slightly lower low than yesterday. I pulled the fibs from our lows on the 18th of December. Okay, so that is what I'm working off at the moment. And in terms of this macro bull zone that we are watching, you can see it does pretty much tie in with the lower bull zone that I had yesterday. So 91K was our low yesterday, or 95 was the low. That 90,500 was the low we were looking for. Now we've adjusted this one here, and you can see this can take us all the way down to this 50-day moving average. Nice 0.5, nice VWAP action here for us as well, and nice horizontal confluence. So again, just trying to be reactive to what the market is giving us right now. 4 hours says maybe a little bit lower. So as you can see on the 2-hour, we can get some kind of reversal now in the interim, and that's going to play into things like AVAX bouncing that I'm going to talk to you guys about. But again, we might have a situation where short-term little bounce and then they come bring it a little bit lower down. Okay, so just look out for that. That is obviously now on the table for us in terms of some of these moves. And then a lot of those shorts from yesterday, well, again, we're moving to a point where you got to kind of decide now if you want to take profit on them or how you want to play it. I'm still holding quite a lot of those short positions from yesterday. Okay, we're going to talk about a ton of those things. So right now we're jumping into some news. We got news on MicroStrategy. That MSCI news came out a little bit early. We're talking about silver and gold as well, and then I've got loads of alts for you. I've got something called 𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏 that we are looking at today, and then tons of updates from yesterday. Okay, so lots happening here today. Let's get into some of the news. Let's just see exactly what is going down. Leakies I haven't looked at yet today. 450 million, and look, yesterday we were 450 as well. So that's quite big numbers once again. And this tends to happen again. Everybody goes overly bullish, and then it bleeds a little bit deeper than what people expect. Okay, but obviously, if you've been in crypto for a while, and some of us even longer than this, you've seen this before. I mean, you know the feeling. This is actually a video of James in his youth, actually. There's nothing they can do. There's nothing they can fucking do. We come back stronger every time. Now, Trump admin says intends to oversee the sale of Venezuela's oil indefinitely. Wow. I mean, that is pretty big brother coming in, where you don't want a big brother and then big brother just says, I'm your big brother and I'm taking over. That's pretty rough. And here's their stock market for some reason. Well, not for some reason. It's kind of bullish, I guess, is responding really well. This is what the market looked like from 2010 into 2024, and the Venezuelans now are loving it. There's a lot of action in that market. It's up something like, James, I think it was about 180% or something in the last couple of days. So that is looking pretty good at the moment. And they are going to give 50 million barrels of oil to the US, which is going to be sold at the market price. So that is obviously fair behavior. What I don't like is the comment that the proceeds are going to be controlled by Trump. Obviously, we've seen that. But there's a comment that he's going to use it to the benefit of Venezuela. And that's where that comment should end. But then he says, and the United States. So I don't know, James. I don't like that United States part. That's not great for me right now.
I think this comment here sums it up. I'm the captain now.
Imagine that happening. I can't imagine. So, yeah, it sounds like Canada also needs some more freedom around the corner.
They definitely need some freedom. And they have a dictator as well that needs removed. So it's just a matter of time.
There we go. There we go. And who else needs some freedom as well? Well, we're going to talk about that now. Let's cover this oil situation. So there's actually been more news on this now. They've tried to seize an oil tanker that is registered in Russia, and the Russians sent a submarine.
They have seized it now. This is old. It's been seized. They've taken it. Yeah.
Okay, so they've seized the submarine in spite of the Russians sending. I mean, they've seized the oil tanker in spite of the Russians sending a submarine. So yeah, now there's big boy things happening in the Caribbean. I'm glad I've left.
Well, that's in the Atlantic. That's not even the Caribbean. This is in the North Atlantic. Yeah. So I guess that ship made it to Venezuela, made it all the way to the Atlantic, and then he got. Yeah. Okay, well, guys, shit's getting hot. Okay, shit's getting hot. Just watch out. Okay, there's a lot going on. In terms of oil, obviously, there's going to be, a tug of war on this oil price at the moment. But again, we wait. Okay, 49 looks like something. If they get control of tons of oil, there's way more supply in the market. This thing could potentially drop a little bit. Looking at that 49, we'll deal with it when we need to. And silver flips NVIDIA in market cap, becoming the second most valuable asset globally. Congratulations to everybody, including this guy that bought silver in 1971. He must be feeling raspberries.
He's pretty chuffed with himself at the moment. And then I thought, well, you know what? Let's take a look at silver on a degen basis. Maybe we got something going on here. And right now you can see this is the absolute high for silver. Okay, so what I'm watching here is silver on the 1 hour. And this is, yes, it's potentially the end of the move for silver. This is a big double top now on the 1 hour that we are looking at. But what can typically happen here is you can get a couple of bullish bounces along the way. So I'm testing out silver. I'm saying, can silver bounce in our shitcoin bull zone? Let's see if it's going to give us our move. Because right now I've got silver on the 1 hour signaling a reversal print. You can see the last few times we signaled a reversal print on silver, we did get quite decent upside on this guy. Okay, so I'm sitting in nice and tight, okay, in my oil position here on BTCC, 76.35, possible bounce coming here. Otherwise, it's 74.86. If that fails, well, then I would guess it's going to zero. No, JK, not exactly zero. Yes, Mia's quite happy I'm on the silver train. Guys, we try and catch a bounce. Let's see what it gives us here. 76.35. That looks like the support. Now, Trump confirms he's considering using the US military to take control of Greenland because they need more freedom or whatever the story is. And now the best part is
national security purposes. That's the reason. They have to do it for American national security.
Well, the best part is you can now take a position on this and you can decide. Yes.
Of course.
So I've taken a position. Will the US take control of any part of Greenland? So I've taken a position here on 𝗘𝘆𝗃, and I actually need to get a few more going. Here's my current situation. I've said, will the US take control of any part of Greenland? So I've bought that as a yes. I've said yes.
There's no date involved there. This is just in general.
Yeah.
Go heavy on that. It's happening. Go heavy. Yeah.
Well, there you go. Then I've got Powell for his next press conference. Is he going to say the word median? Okay, so I've said yes. So I'm going to 2x there if I get that one. And Powell out of chair before May 26, possibly as well. I've taken a run at that one.
Or you're betting he's removed beforehand?
Yes. Oh. Before May 26. Let's see. Again, we can play all these types of games. So, guys, if you want to do this with me, it's open for the US customers only. Okay, so there's a link in the show description. Obviously, if you have a friend in the US that can set it up for you, that's a different story. But this is for US residents. So there's a link in the show description if you want to have a go on some of these things with me. Now, here's the big news. MicroStrategy, I was saying we're looking for a 20% move when this eventually happens. The big news is that they're not going to be exited from this MSCI index. And that is what we wanted to see. That was obviously going to be the bullish move. Now, That has happened. It seems like it's happened early, and there's rule.
Yeah, it came early, and then does this explain it? I'm not sure if this is the tweet saying that, when they actually, they're not going to be forced to buy when they increase their stake anymore. So that's actually just canceled this to a nothing burger, where this was a huge thing. We've been waiting on it. It was great to get the early news, and that's what caused that candle last night for me. Everybody's going, what happened? Where's the green candle come from? It was this news.
So they stay in the index, so that is nice. But then you can see here they've said other treasury companies issued to new shares. Okay, wait, where are we? The issued new shares. MSCI will not add those extra shares to its index. Okay, so it's not great news in terms of that. Let's take a look at those people that bought the top of MSTR. Are we ever going to go back there? Again, if Bitcoin goes to 200K, I suppose it does go back. But until then, that's us, okay? And that's including me in my little position over here on BTCP. So again, we've got the green candle. I suppose we can breathe a sigh of relief, but our low is 152, folks. That is what we're using at the moment. So that is the current deal. Now here's silver, and obviously looking for this guy to bounce off that zone. I've just given you MicroStrategy, absolute dog shit for me at the moment. Circle, still chopping around. I'm waiting for some more bullish crypto things to happen, and then maybe we can get some action. But the S&P, guys, that doesn't care. This thing is still cooking. Look at that. We've had all-time highs again on the S&P. Almost feels like we need along the top once again on this guy. Okay, James's eyes.
How about the Dow Jones this morning? Did you see what the Dow did?
No, I didn't.
Massive spike up. It went insane, got a new all-time high, and then reversed like crazy, went right back down. It was nuts. We were trading that, the live trading this morning in the Discord.
Yeah, a little stop hunt there, maybe. So yeah, okay, guys, look, S&P doing well. Now, what does this mean for us in crypto? Well, let's take a look here at BTC on the 3-day. Let's look at our big levels. Now, one of you guys in the chats was saying, Dukes was saying 74, whatever. It's on the table, guys. I mean, I've been covering this for, geez, I don't know how long as a possibility. And my most bullish prize was always going to be that second dip into that zone for the divergence and then the push. Now, obviously, we didn't get that final sell-off that I wanted to see into that region, but it doesn't mean it's not on the table. So in terms of what could transpire here at the moment, there's a couple of things. The big one is the 50-day moving average that you see over here. That has been broken. So obviously what we want to see as bulls is simply a retest at the best, or at the worst. We want to see that retest of that 50-day MA. On this chart, it's currently around 89,200. And then we want to see some kind of bounce. And we want to see a bounce into one of our macro rejection zones. And that rejection zone there, 98K, 103, and then I've got 106 to 108. These are the zones for me that could send this thing a little bit lower down. Now, typically, I want to see the big moves come off big levels. It's a little bit unusual for the big moves to come off not so big levels. So let's see how this plays out. Right now, you can see we are at a resistance zone, and we have rejected on a lower time frame. As you can see, that 94K that we were covering yesterday or over the last couple of days. So we can see that is a rejection zone, but in terms of a monster rejection zone, 98, 103, 106 to 108, that is kind of where I am at the moment. Okay, so we go level by level. And remember, on the show and in the Chartacus Discord, we go step by step. We look for shorts, we look for longs, we look for reactions of all those zones, and we play what the market gives us. We don't play what we hope the market is going to give us, okay? Now, remember, all these charts, they do go into the Hackers Discord for you guys directly after the show. They will be there waiting. And in terms of a couple of bounces, well, we're going to talk about a lot of alts now. I'm going to cover these things. Let's just quickly see where AVAX is in case there is a little bouncy coming here, because yesterday we missed that short on XRP because I was talking too much and we didn't get the opportunity. So AVAX is sitting in a bullish zone. This is the bottom of my bull zone here, 13.95. We've got a VWAP here. I've got an order block. I've got the 0.5 fib. I've got some horizontals, and my 1 hour degen oscillator is telling me possible reversal here. Okay, so the last time we got that, we did get a nice upside move, and that is extremely oversold at the moment. So if anything, a short-term bounce here. Could be a little move, even up to 14. If we're lucky, they push it up to 14.4. Then maybe more downside. We'll take a look at that. There's a couple of alts out there that are telling me, like XRP on the 8 hour, that things could get a little bit darker to the downside before we get some relief. Now, James is not going to be happy with the XRP when I show him where we're going long next. Okay,
so it's time to buy more. It's great news.
He's looking nervous. Okay, we're gonna cover this now. Okay, so guys, there's a possible bounce right now on AVAX. Might be a short-term move. Protect yourselves, manage your risk. Okay, that is what we're looking at now. Let's talk altcoins, and where do I think the big bounce is going to come on the market? Well, number one, is USDT dominance. We can look at that. So we've had a big bounce on USDT dominance on our weekly level. And when USDT dominance bounces, that means the market is dropping. The market is falling over and we need a rejection. Now, the big one for me that I'm watching now after this bounce is this 50-day moving average. Now, wouldn't that tie in beautifully to Bitcoin dropping onto the 50-day MA and a lot of these altcoins, ETH, Solana, some of the big ones, XRP, dropping onto the 50-day MA, that we could marry in a rejection on the 50 with a bounce on the 50 with some of these alts, and that could be a really nice result for us. Okay, now paper planes, I love this this man. Look at this, a heavy short XRP, what a gent. Okay, I'm actually a little bit jealous. I wanted to be talking about this, but okay, so that is the plan, USDT, and that is 6.2%. You are looking at a potential rejection zone there, and that could be the bottom or the short-term bottom of a possible market bounce there for us. Okay, and also interesting, here's your 50-day MA on Bitcoin dominance. That could be interesting there as well for us. Okay, so just something for you guys to watch over the next couple of days, and then your 4-hour RSI heat map that we used so nicely yesterday. Remember, get this thing in your life. If you're not using this as a guide, you are missing out on something important. You know, this is what we use to see what is happening with the market. And yesterday it was telling us possible sell-off coming. And look at that. It's now played out and they're back in their chop zones here while we wait for the next big move. Okay, so let's get into these alts. And let's start with ETH. And I got Sol, I got 𝗏𝗏𝗏, Link. Congratulations to the Link army. Again, the amount of times I've heard about a Link ETF. I mean, I don't even know. Do you have an ETF? Is there one? What's the story? They always talking about this thing. Please tell me.
I saw it again too. I'm like, have I not read this 20 times already? Is this just? I don't know. I don't follow Link at all, so I'm not sure. But there was another one anyway. I'm pretty sure there's been 10 already.
Yeah, congratulations to the Link guys, Link army. Congratulations, 5 million ETFs for you guys, and I don't know when it ends eventually. Okay, we're going to talk about that. So in terms of ETH, you can see very similar to Bitcoin. It has broken through the 50-day MA. There's that retest I'm talking about. So that will be our extreme low. Like, again, we don't really need to see that in our lives, especially the high leverage traders. You're going to get absolutely blitzed if they drop that down there. But again, it is going to be a bounce zone for us. We don't necessarily have to hit that area, but that is our big one there, 3,000 for ETH. That's your 50-day MA, and that is what we're going to track. Now, in terms of the upside move, I think it's pretty clean here for us. 3.5 into 3.8, that is your bear zone. I'm not being picking exactly where it is. The reason being, I've got so many different points of confluence in that region. I've got the VWAP, I've got the 200-day MA, I've got the 100-day MA, I've got a 3.82, I've got a 0.5. That whole region for me, guys, is trouble. Okay, that is a big danger zone there for ETH. And that is where you're going to be super cautious if we rip into that area on some of your altcoins as well. Now, in terms of lower time frame here for ETH, pretty interesting. I gave you guys a degen long zone yesterday. That was the 236 fib. And look at that. Nice little bounce there for ETH. And all they did was print a lower high, even though they did stretch that up into that upper band. That was a lower high for ETH. So now we can take away that move. And now we can focus on our bull zone. Now, I'm looking at ETH on the 4-hour time frame here. And you can see our oscillator is starting to accelerate now to the downside. So typically, you don't really want to see this thing losing levels. When it starts doing that, you get that sort of cascading move there. And that is now what we're seeing on ETH. And we're looking for this thing to bottom out, give us a nice reversal. And obviously, we need protection areas. We need to understand where those bounce zones are. And the big ones for me, 3.1 into 3,000. That is the big area there for me on ETH. And that is where those of you that have longer term conviction, you can start trying to build a long position there. That's a possible nice bounce for us on ETH. Okay, so 3.1 into 3,000. VWAP 50-day 0.5 horizontals. It's a bit of a banger zone there and will hopefully tie in with a 4-hour reversal. Again, if it doesn't, we update daily here. We'll cover you guys. If we start dropping into that area and we start losing levels, we'll make sure you guys are covered. You'll know exactly where you're reacting with your next zone as well. Okay. And a lot of guys asking for Altcoin. I'm going to have to pull that one up and make sure we look at that for you guys. Okay. So I've actually got a ton to cover for you. And obviously one of my concerns at the moment is that I'm more long here than short, obviously. And yeah, again, if we start dropping and losing 50-day MAs, I'm going to have to start changing my strategy here as to how I'm going to play this move. So right now you can see I've jumped into a small long at 91k. I had a limit order set there for BTC on BTC. The short from yesterday, still holding that one. AVAX, I've added a little bit more to my long after adding a little bit to the short earlier today. Lit is in our bounce zone now, so you can see I'm under pressure there on that one. I need that lit to bounce for us. Then we've got pump. Mixed signals at the moment for me on pump, so leaving that one as it is here. Peppy jumped into a scalp short earlier today. Then Sol getting a bit caned at the moment. I have clipped a little bit off that one. Brett, what are we doing here? Brett getting rinsed basically. I'm 5% down on that one. ETH short doing good. Hype coming back to an entry zone here. I think we're going to get a bounce on Hype as well. I've got that chart. And then the Sui short from yesterday still looking good. Okay, so doing its thing. They're doing their job. We just don't want them to go too much lower. Okay, so Alan says Alts starting to bounce. Well, hopefully they bounce a little bit harder. Now, in terms of Sol, obviously it's a good one to watch. And we can see there's a lot of Sol dexes, a lot of volume coming up here. But can somebody please tell me where Jupiter is? James, where's Jupe? Why is it not on this list? I mean, isn't this what we use all the time? And you can see Meteora at the top, 𝗬𝗏, Radium, Bison, Orca, but no Jupe, unless I'm missing something. Do you know anything about this? Is nobody using Jupe anymore?
Yeah, I don't know, because Dave was talking about Jupe and all this good news about it last night in the Zoom and everything. I don't know how it's not even on the list. That makes no sense.
It's weird. Okay, so guys, DJ and Dave has got a possible Jupe trade. He actually spoke to us about it yesterday or earlier today. There's some kind of airdrop on Jupe that is coming. So best you watch Dave's show. That is tomorrow. He's probably going to be talking about that and the reasoning behind that trade. So Dave's doing a show on the Chart Hackers channel tomorrow. You're going to catch him there, and I'm sure he'll be covering that for you guys. Okay, China pauses NVIDIA chip shipping due to tariff details. Whoa, wait. I'm sure I had something on that. No, did I not cover that? Okay, I had something on NVIDIA and I had something on Tesla that I wanted to share with you guys, but I see I didn't cover it here today. But basically what's happened is, before we jump into these Sol and the other guys, basically NVIDIA has released tech for what's self-driving software, James, if I'm not mistaken, and that anybody, it's openware, it's open software. So apparently Tesla is feeling a little bit of the heat today. Okay, and Jupe is best positioned in Sol, got everything. Yeah, look guys, I mean, yeah, think about Jupe. Okay, now in terms of Solana, let's break this down. This is our same chart from yesterday, no changes here. Okay, so we've got 133 into 130. This is our bull zone that we are watching for Sol, 133 to 130, looking for longs in that area. You can see this 4-hour divergence has finally played out. Remember, these divergences eventually, they're actually pretty nice tools, guys, and you want to look out at big resistance zones. When you see those divergences, often a sign that things are going to give you a little bit of action. Okay, so now this 4-hour is bleeding. I do like the cash flow, still nice and strong. So let's see how deep this 4-hour goes. Hopefully, it's going to hold our bull zone here, which is 133 to 130. We do have backup. Look at that VWAP coming up here as well. So anywhere in that region makes sense to me for Sol. Okay, so just be patient here. Sol traders 133, 130, looking like an area of interest here for us. Now, in terms of this list on outperforming dexes, Meteora, which I've never actually spoken about or actually heard of. I thought, well, best we look at this thing and you see what is going on. So here's Meteora on the 4-hour, and right now looking a little bit heavy. Now, I know it's sitting on support at the moment, but just a couple of things in terms of the chart and, what I'm looking at here. There's a possible heady over here. You can see there's a possible situation where this thing might start losing some levels and then drop into a more attractive zone for us. So we need to see how this 4-hour is going to play out. Right now, this thing is dropping pretty quickly for us. And, the sooner this thing reverses, the better. But in terms of conviction zones for me, 2635 into 252. These are the conviction zones at the moment that make sense for me for this Meteora, which according to this chart has got the highest trading volume. I don't get this. $2.1 billion. 8 million trades, James. Why have I never used this thing? What am I even looking at here at the moment? Okay, so that is your Meteora. Maybe there's something here. And then very notable, like a lot of these other dexes, including Pump that we looked at yesterday, hasn't broken through that 50-day moving average yet, which is a big one for us. So when they do start clearing that 50-day MA, it could be quite a nice bullish sign for some big moves later on. Okay, so right now, Meteora is on support, possible short-term bounce where it is now, and then lower down 2635 into 252 is making sense for me for the next possible bounce on that guy. Okay, and now let's talk about The greatest news in the world, James. Bitwise has received approval from the SEC to list spot link ETF for the 5 millionth time. Okay, so again, like no major changes in the chart for us. And this is my higher time frame chart from the 𝗏𝗏𝗃𝗃's Discord. That's pretty much been in there unchanged for probably since the beginning of November. The link has been bouncing around in this long zone that I provided there. And there's been 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 opportunities here for link, just bouncing off weekly support and a rising trend. Okay, so nothing too severe happening at the moment for link, other than your main support is 11.6. But if you're a little bit of a degen, maybe you are looking for a little bit more interesting trades. Okay, and in terms of this one, here is link on the 2 hour that I'm tracking at the moment. And I want to highlight for you guys again that 50-day moving average. Look at that. This thing is going to be cropping up everywhere on your altcoins. It's all over Bitcoin. It's all over ETH as well at the moment. So watching this 50-day MA, if we do get momentum to the downside, this is generally where you want to see the bouncing. Okay, so 2 hour link, what are we looking at? For me, 12.97 to even about 13.1 is starting to look pretty interesting. Here's our 2 hour. We are getting close to some kind of reversal on that 2 hour. And remember, the reversals tend to give us 2 options. Option 1 is the easy trade. You see the drop into the zone and you go long on support and you get that beautiful bounce and everybody is happy. Then option B is the more difficult trade, which is the bullish divergence trade, and it typically looks something like this. You get the oscillator drop into the zone, people go long a little bit early, then you get this move like that on the oscillator, and it's this second drop here that drops that price to the next level. So that could typically look like something like this, a little push up and then a drop into that zone for your 2 hour divergence trade on link. Okay, so look out there, guys. 12.97, 13, somewhere in that area. You've got a VWAP backup at 12.8. That could be a long play there for you guys. Just be patient with some of these alts. Okay, again, you can see we've dropped here. We've been rejected on a lot of them, and now we just be a foot off the gas, a little bit cautious here until we see that momentum coming again. Okay, and speaking of momentum, XRP, James, had never hit our $10 target at the end of December, but there's always December 2055 that XRP can maybe do that. And right now, again, I don't want to offend anybody here, but look at that. This is the 8 hour that I'm watching. Heavy reversal prints now on XRP. So we know when you hear it on mainstream news, that's often the top. Now, it wasn't mainstream news talking about XRP yesterday. What did they say?
It was all over the place yesterday saying the trade of the year is XRP. It's not Bitcoin. It's not Ethereum. It was on MSNBC. I was like, huh? Where is this coming from? There's not any news. Nothing's changed with XRP. It's not like there's some new whatever that's come out. Very weird to see that. But yeah, typically in 2017, when it was going insane, was on the news, they were literally explaining how to buy XRP on the news, and that was literally the top where it was at that 3 something whatever it was in 2017. So yeah, not a good look.
Yeah, I mean, look, by the time you hear all this stuff on whatever, whether it's gold or silver and all these things, and guys are hyping the shit out of it, you need to be a little bit careful. Okay, but in terms of a banger, guys, I dropped this here. I said to the 𝗏𝗏𝗃𝗃's Discord, I said stink bids here, guys. Get stink bids at 2. Like, it's a long way down, but it can happen pretty quickly. Remember, all these 85-year-olds that still buy XRP, they probably panic close, okay? They're going to start closing it on their Pentiums, okay, with their Windows 95. And they're going to start panic closing and look for buys at around about 2. That is an interesting reaction zone. VWAP 50-day MA. I've got some nice horizontals here that we just blew through, and it could be a nice zone. Okay, so look out for that. Obviously, if it fails, we look a little bit lower. We'll deal with that. But just wait, and XRP will be 10 when we have to start printing $1,000 bills. Yeah, that's possible as well. Okay, so guys, there's your XRP. Remember, these charts, they go into the Discord after the show, so you'll find them over there. And live trading in Chart Hackers was lit. AFJ James Nagel for the win. Thanks for having me up. Nice, JR. Okay, nice. You got a little bit of action there. Now, update on AVAX getting liquidated. Okay, James, how's this thing? It's dropping through the VWAP, guys. This is a must-bounce zone now for us. We want to see AVAX hold this area, or we need to start looking at chopping. But again, I'm looking at this oscillator. It's close. Okay, we might get a little flush or whatever they give us, but in terms of a short-term move, this thing is heavily oversold now at the moment. So just be watchful on this thing. If you're nibble at this guy, this is there's signs here that something is going to happen. Obviously, that 50-day MA is much lower down. Okay, that 50-day MA is sitting at 13.3. So if there is a drop, make sure you're not in like 1000x leverage or whatever that is, because it's about a 4% drop to the downside there. Okay, so just be careful. But that 1 hour is climbing. The 1 hour is close. Let's look at the 2 here quickly on this thing. Okay, that 2 hours also getting there. Okay, so it's just a matter of time here. Obviously, that's a 4% drop to that 50-day MA. But in terms of the degen play, yeah, let's see if we get a bounce here. 85-year-olds, what do they need money for? 𝗵𝗿𝗿𝗀𝗀𝗡. Okay, so let's go 𝗬𝗰. Let's see what's happening here. Again, no changes to 𝗬𝗰. Now, I ran out of time yesterday. I think we didn't cover 𝗬𝗰, did we? Well, we did. No, we did. Oh, okay, yeah, James said we did cover 𝗬𝗰, but yeah, we got that short, and now we're dropping into 175, 166. That is the first main region of interest. You can see this is 𝗬𝗰 on the 4 hour, so no real changes at the moment. We have lost our low on the oscillator. This is interesting. We might start just dropping a little bit lower. So in terms of first levels of interest, 175 into 166. Look over there. That 50-day is incredibly low down. Don't really want to go there. Okay, but yeah, something to watch there for now, guys. 𝗬𝗰, so no real changes. Let's talk lit, and sitting on the bounce zone that I spoke about yesterday, guys. So this was it, 2.9 into, what did we say, 2.8, give or take. We don't want to lose that VWAP. Okay, I said here, as long as it holds these VWAPs, we can look for longs. I've added to my long position here on lit, and we are waiting patiently. That 2 hour is getting overcooked now to the downside. Obviously, doesn't mean it can't go lower. It can't go lower. You know, we can obviously get rinsed on this thing, but in terms of lit, if we close under that VWAP over there, 2.8, that type of region, I'm going to start cutting that position. I don't want to get stuck in this guy. Okay, and then it starts rolling over. Okay, so lit, I'll drop that in the Discord for you. Here's Hyperliquid, and also falling over a little bit for us. We spoke about this thing rolling over, and right now you can see there's our 0.5, there's our VWAP in that bull zone. So again, just waiting. 26 is the lower bull zone where I've got the VWAP and the fib as well. There's also a decent tie in here with those horizontals. So interesting zone for us. 4 hour, not amazing. Okay, this 4 hour has got work to do. This could take a couple of days. Okay, so just be watchful here. That 4 hour could take some time to reset on this guy, but in terms of possible bounces, this makes sense to me. Even a short-term bounce, and then maybe they look for lower. We'll have to see the 2 hour, the 1 hour. We'll have to watch those oscillators there and make sure that things are pointing in the right direction for us. Okay, so that is hype. Now, in terms of AAVE and BCH, I feel like I've been in these trades for decades, waiting for these things to do something, and now obviously looking for the continuation play. So I'm trading these two on 𝗶𝗆 at the moment. And just in terms of an update here, AAVE, you guys know, I always like this project when the market is bullish. It's always a nice trade, and I'm obviously trying to grow something. If we are going to get a Bitcoin push, we want AAVE to deliver for us. So just some notes here. That 4 hour was bearish. This thing is now dropping lower, and we might be in for a little bit more pain. But in terms of the first region that we want to look at, 164 to 160, that is your first sort of area where you start engaging with this thing, because you're probably going to get 2 hour, 1 hour reversals in a zone like that. Okay, so that is going to be your typical first area. You can see that 2 hour is getting close there to the downside as well. Okay, so just let it drop there, engage a little bit in the area. If they're going to come with more pain, we deal with it. Okay, if they drop us lower, that means we're probably going to have a bullish weekend anyway, and we can have some fun out the back end of that one. And then in terms of BCH, guys, yeah, trying to be super patient. Here's the big one here, 615 into 600. Look at that. We're sitting on a VWAP right now. We are holding that zone. Let's just actually see if it's the top of that local bull zone there. There it is. Okay, so it's holding a 382 and VWAP as we speak. And then lower down, I've got a slightly more macro VWAP at that 615 region. And that for me prints nice bullish divergence on the 2 hour oscillator. Okay, so that could be an interesting one for us. But what it means is we need to print a new low. So remember, we want to print a new low on the price, and we want this oscillator to do that. Bang, bang, give us a nice little bounce, and hopefully that ties us in somewhere in that region, and then we get a strong bounce on BC8. Okay, so just wait for the 615.8 into 603. That is an interesting area for me on that guy. And then I've got I've got some updates here. We got SPX. Let's see. This is our Wen entry from yesterday. So those of you that aren't in the Discord, what we do every day is after the show, I give a high conviction setup entry, stop loss, take profits, all those things you can set and forget, wait for it to come to you, and you either wake up and you're printing or you wake up and you stop. I give reasonable stops, 2 to 3%, give or take, is what we are looking at on those. And SPX, we're waiting for this from yesterday. So looking for a dip into that 50-day MA. I've got nice horizontals here. We've got a nice 0.5 as well. And I'm just waiting patiently for this oscillator to give us a nice reset here at these lows. Okay, so SPX, just waiting on this guy at the moment. Middle of the box, say 56, give or take, is a possible bounce zone. And your backup area is 535. Should get a nice backup bounce if it fails in that zone. Okay, at 535, that is interesting there for us. Right now, the risk on that current entry box, if you get your entry sort of midway in the box, about 1.8%. Give or take risk, and then your upside is about 13, give or take, if it does play out. Now, here's an interesting one. 𝗬𝗯𝗚 is finally back at what's our win percent on Wen Entry? I think when I last checked, it was 75%, give or take. We need to do an update there for you guys, but it's a fairly solid hit rate. And the reason being is they super high conviction setups that we wait patiently for, and we wait for those big reversals. Okay, 270, 263 on 𝗬𝗯𝗚, guys. This is the zone. Look at that. We've broken the 50-day MA. Look at that beautiful break. And now we cannot say it's unreasonable to retest that area. So if we come back and we retest the 50-day MA, it does actually make sense. So for me, if we're going to stay bullish, we want to hold this typical region. So 270 into 263, okay? And looking for this 1 hour, 2 hour reversal on 𝗬𝗯𝗚. Here's our 1 hour that we're watching at the moment, okay? So anyone looking for a fresh trade, there's a possible trade right now. Risk is about, even from here, your risk is about 1.1%. Or you can stretch it a bit if you're using low leverage. You can take it down to about 4.5%, but that's got to be low leverage stuff, small position. If you're trading higher leverage, that is about a 1% risk, 1.4% risk you can play around with there at the moment. Okay, so you can see that 50-day MA is sitting at 266. You don't really want to put a stop above that. You want it to close below 266. Okay. So look out for that. There's a possible bounce there. Then in terms of BONK, I don't know why this thing is still holding. This is the zone I gave you yesterday, and this has been a bit of an outperformer relative to some of these other alts. Look at that. It's holding our VWAP. It's holding our order block as well. So BONK, there's no changes at the moment. I would say when this does roll over, it's going to roll over fast. Just look out. That's going to get cleaned out relatively quickly when it does roll over. But you might find they even try and squeeze it up first and then drop this thing a little bit lower down. So BONK, no changes here. First line of support, 00111 looks like first line of support for me. And then you've got your super degen stuff, 114 as your basic support that you can play with there on that guy. Okay, so that is that, guys. And then just a reminder, I've got another WEEX competition starting around the corner. We're going to be implementing that in the Chart Hackers Discord, and we're going to have regular trading competitions within the Discord. You'll obviously be invited to join them on the show as well, but we're going to pull in some WEEX and some Blowfin trading comps for you guys actively in the Discord on the show. There'll be leaderboards, there'll be prizes, all these types of fun things that we're going to look forward to. So that is coming in around the corner. Remember, guys, everything that I do talk about here is in the show description. You click on the show, and then you go under the show description and you click on more, and you can see all the stuff that we cover on the show is here, including my indicators are there for you guys. Remember, if you're a Chart Hackers member, the indicators only $49 a month. If you're not a Chart Hackers members, the indicators are $69 a month, and then there's all the exchanges, everything there for you guys. Okay, so that is that, and that is a wrap. Mr. 𝗵𝗆𝗍, thank you, sir.
Good luck, everyone.
Good luck, everyone. See you guys later.